Good morning. Welcome to Market Day Report. I'm Tony St. James, and it's midweek. Let's jump into the markets. And overnight trade for corn has been in the red. December 409.5, down 2 1/4, 2 1/4 lower on the March as well, 2 1/4 cents lower on the July as we prepare for the open in just a bit. What about soybeans? Same story. November off 8, 1034 1/4, and 7 3/4 cents lower on both January and March. Overnight session for wheat lower, down 1 3/4 on the front month December for Chicago, 576 1/4, and 1 lower new crop July. What about hard red winter wheat? Well, basically, same story. Down 2 1/4 front month, 568 3/4 July, 597 1/2, 1.5 lower. And Minneapolis off 2 3/4 on the December at 609, with the cotton market on the overnight session down 44 at 73.65. Let's bring in Brian Hoops. Brian, President, Midwest Market Solutions. What are you watching?
Good morning, Tony. Well, we had a private export sale announcement this morning we should pass along to your listeners. 180,000 metric tons of corn sold to Mexico this morning. So it's a little over 7 million bushels, a good number. Certainly we have more than that, but that was what has been reported. We didn't have any sales reported last week, and so that will help out our sales report next week, not tomorrow, but the week after. That's when that'll show up. So overnight markets, as you mentioned, they were lower, and just a reversal of what happened 24 hours ago where we talked and prices were higher. And we said at that time, we've said this before, you have to really watch that first 30 minutes to 45, 60 minutes of trade, that first hour where the volume is the largest, for direction for the rest of the day. Yesterday, we had rallied and extended the rally into the morning hours, peaked out and started to turn lower, closing lower in corn and well off the highs in soybeans. Meal was lower and wheat lower. All these were kind of bearish type technical action trades. Watch what happens this morning. If we can find some buying interest, buying support, and prices start to rally and maybe turn green on the day, a lot of what was lost is going to be regained today. So it's very important to watch that first 30 minutes of trade to the first hour. That's going to be the key. News-wise, of course, the export sales, something that the trade is watching. It seems like maybe some of the stimulus money out of China and the U.S. has been factored into prices. Crude oil's down a couple percent this morning. And rains for Mato Grosso, the key soybean-producing state in Brazil, they're increasing rain chances. That happened at midday yesterday, last night, and again this morning. So these models are starting to become consistent with increasing rainfall potential for the #1 growing area in South America.
Yeah, definitely underscoring the importance of weather as we head into Q4. Let's take a break. We'll be back in just a moment. We'll look at cattle, we'll look at hogs, and one other thing too with Brian Hoops. Market Day Report continues in a moment. Market Day Report. Okay, so we have an overnight trade session and we trade our row crops for the most part. We don't trade livestock futures in the overnight session, but yesterday, a mostly higher close for live cattle. One exception there, the October, which was nickel lower, but December 57 higher on February. That D's at 184.40, February 185.42. What about the feeders yesterday? Well, same story there with the October this time up $1.32 at 245.80, 65 higher on November at 243.40. Are we starting to squeeze the packer in there? And if so, what will that do for cash cattle later this week? Hog trade. Just slow and steady higher, up a dime on the December, 74.97, though October slipped 17 to 82.12. Class 3 milk futures yesterday in the red across the board with October, nickel lower, 23.23. Let's bring back in Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions. Okay, let's start with the cattle market. What are you watching there?
Yeah, definitely be on the lookout for some cash cattle trade. We haven't seen anything developing yet, and probably won't today. Probably be Thursday, Friday. The futures market has rallied 6 consecutive days, closing higher. Now, we're definitely overbought, due for some sort of a correction. I think we've already dialed in at least 183 trade. So that's, you're looking at fully steady market with that, with October futures par with the cash markets. Unfortunately, yesterday we saw, the deferred contracts moving higher. It wasn't led by bull spreading. Same thing in the hogs. The October contract unable to really advance gains tells us that maybe these markets, because of the way the spreads are acting, maybe getting to a point where that may be enough for now until we get some fresh news. And this is true for both the hogs and the cattle. I think your upside is capped here, at least temporarily, by the weights that we have. Hog weights came out this morning. They're still 3 pounds heavier than a year ago. We know the cattle weights are anywhere from 28 to 35 pounds heavier than a year ago. That just creates more supply that the market has to work with. So I wouldn't be surprised on a dress basis this week to see some cash trade at the 294 area, maybe a couple dollars higher, but probably going to be steady, maybe a dollar higher in the Southern Plains. And I think we've dialed a lot of that in right now.
Okay. Said we would talk cattle, hogs, and one other thing. What about the gold market? It's almost like not every day, but definitely once every week, it seems as though we're talking about new highs in gold. Is that on your radar?
Yeah, absolutely. Gold market, has been hitting these new highs. A lot of it is inflationary fears. We cut rates here in the U.S. a week ago. There's some concern that if you cut it too fast, too much, that you're going to see inflation the economy get too hot, inflation rear its ugly head again. China cut interest rates yesterday. Concerns abound there that maybe inflation ramps up again. They're trying to stimulate their economy. And when you talk about maybe inflation starting to heat up, gold seems to be that safe haven buy for speculators and traders. And so they've been very aggressive buying gold this year, and it's paid off in big dividends so far for them.
Well, Brian, looks like we can say it again, new all-time high already this morning on gold. Silver is nearing 14-year highs, and copper has been moving higher as well. So I guess we've covered all of the Olympics there, well, kind of. But anyway, glad you were here with us this morning. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Brian Hoops, Midwest Market Solutions. And again, we'll continue to watch what's happening with those precious metals.